I'm coming to you today with two coffee makers that I'm going to be comparing. I've got the K Mini Plus. This is a coffee maker that I bought with my own money about 10 months ago. I've been using it a lot, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cups that I've brewed with this machine. I've liked it quite a bit over the past almost year. Lately, I've been experimenting with the new Keurig KSupreme. There's also a KSupreme Plus. For the purpose of this video, I'm only talking about the regular KSupreme because I have not experimented with the Plus version of that yet. I bought the KSupreme mostly because it's supposed to be an upgrade from the K Mini. Now, it's not as slim as the K Mini because it's got a reservoir here on the side. But other than that, it's basically the same unit. It looks almost identical. There's some slight differences to the physical construction of it, but it is an upgrade. It's supposed to be an upgrade, and it's supposed to be better, and I think it is. In this video, I'm going to be telling you exactly the differences between these two things and why this one actually is better. There are a couple things having to do with the new KSupreme that aren't as good, but they are very small things. All right, let's get into it. First, let's start with the obvious, because we can get that out of the way really quick. The KSupreme, and the KSupreme Plus for that matter, have a external reservoir. It's a pitcher style. You can take the pitcher off, take it over to the sink, fill it up, bring it back, stick it on the base, and it's ready to go. It's really easy. I really like this little pitcher thing. The pitcher can be situated here on the left or in the back, depending on which place you want it. The K Mini Plus, however, has a water in, water out reservoir. So basically you fill up your cup, pour the water in, and that's how much water comes out or coffee comes out. The K Mini Plus has a reservoir that can be removed, so you can pop it off and take it over to the sink. You can wash it out in the sink, you can fill it up at the sink, you can put the reservoir in the dishwasher, or you can just scrub it out in the sink. That's really nice. In the real world, the way that I use that though is I really just take it off to clean it. I used to, when I bought the machine, I used to try to fill the water reservoir up at the sink and then stick it back on so that I didn't have to like pour water from the coffee cup in there. But what I found in actual usage is that was actually harder to do. When you fill it up at the sink, then you're walking with this like wide, shallow reservoir, and it was awkward. Like you're always trying to not spill it. So I just started leaving it on there and filled it up with a cup or a water bottle, whatever water I was using. There's actually only two other main differences in the appearance or the physicality of these machines. And that has to do with dimensions and cord storage. The K Mini Plus has a cord storage compartment in the back. So for instance, right here, I've got it plugged right in. There's extra cord that I don't need. So that cord, I can literally shove it into the cord storage area in the back of the machine so that I don't have extra cord draped out all over my counter. This, for whatever reason, doesn't have that. I do kind of wish it did because it's a small thing, but it is annoying to have extra cord sitting on your counter in your kitchen. In terms of the dimensions of these machines, they're basically the same. As you can tell, this opens more than this. So this just doesn't go up as high. This goes up higher, so you have more clearance to kind of, clean in here and put your K-cups in, without bumping things around. Here, it's more of a narrow thing. It's a good and a bad thing. With cabinetry that goes over the top of it, this is much closer to the cabinet than this is. I mean, much closer. It's about ½ an inch. In the back of the unit, like back here, this section right here is higher, like it's raised, whereas this section back here is lowered. Why? I don't know. It's the reservoir back here. This is the reservoir that I'm touching. For whatever reason, it's just lower. Everything else is about the same. The buttons on the top, they look similar. This is a water in, water out system, so there's no buttons for like 6, 8, 10, and 12 ounce portions. Whatever you put in is what comes out. So this has those extra buttons. You've got a strong button on the K-Mini Plus. You also have a strong button on the KSupreme. The KSupreme has a couple extra little things to it. There's an extra button up here for over ice, which, based on my own experimentation, is a lower volume of water that is brewed a little bit slower, so as to make a very strong small cup of coffee. That way, when it goes over the ice and the ice melts, your water doesn't make the coffee taste too watered down. K-Mini Plus doesn't have the over ice button, so if you want to put it over ice, you have to manually put in a very small amount of water to the reservoir and hit the strong button so it brews a little bit slower. There is a add water and a descale light on the KSupreme. Add water is obvious. I mean, you're always adding water to this, and you add water to this when the pitcher gets low. So, the add water button or the add water light is, I don't know, you don't really need it, it's obvious. But the descale light is kind of nice. K-Mini Plus does not have a descale light. So here in my house, we're on a well, so we have lots of mineral buildup that happens in anything that uses water. Sinks, faucets, dishwashers, soaker hoses, like everything. Coffee makers. I have to descale my coffee makers quite a bit, so we're talking every 1 to 2 weeks or so. I run vinegar through my coffee makers just to make sure that the internal components aren't getting just caked with mineral deposits. This has a little light that tells you if you need to do that. Like if you've let it go too far, the light will tell you. You don't get that light with this one. So there's no reminder to deal with the situation. So that's good for those people that don't really think to descale it very often. Now, in terms of use, this is the meat. This is the meat of this video. Features and functions and aesthetics are nice and all, but man, we're making coffee here, so it's gotta be good. This machine right here is slower and louder than this machine. That's it. I'm finding that this machine makes coffee better. It just does. Every single setting that I have tried on it, it's just better. In terms of design and how it makes coffee, like every other K-Cup coffee maker out there, the K-Mini Plus has a single needle. The new KSupreme and some of the other new machines in their line have this multi-stream technology. It's just 5 needles instead of 1. It's 5 water points that go into the K-Cup. So you put a K-Cup in there, you close it, and you have 5 needles injecting water into that cup. So all of the coffee grind kind of gets evenly watered, evenly wetted at the same rate. But what's also cool about it is that this brews slower. Even though the machine gives you a cup of coffee much faster than this, the actual brew time, the time that the water is traveling through the K-Cup, is longer. So they're actually able to get this machine to give you a better brew because they take their time brewing it, but they're able to get the coffee into the cup much faster than this. Now that it surprised me when I started testing with this, honestly. When I started doing this, my kids even noticed how quiet this was. Like, this is somewhat loud when you brew on it. This is whisper silent. Like, you barely even notice that it's on. And what's crazy is that when you start the brew process, coffee starts dripping out in 11 seconds. Like 11 seconds. It doesn't matter what setting you use. From my testing, in about 11 seconds, the first coffee starts coming out. That is insanely fast. And I've thrown in, I put thermometers into the cup to make sure that the water is coming out hot. And it's coming out hot. Basically, the water is coming out of the reservoir into the machine. Now, I haven't opened the machine up, but my guess is it's traveling through a heating coil. So as a small stream of water travels through that coil, it heats up. And by the time it gets to the end of it, it's perfectly fine. and it's perfectly hot enough to brew a very good cup of coffee, and it does it super fast. So the first drips come out in about 11 seconds. When you brew an 8-ounce cup of coffee with the KSupreme on regular, so you don't use the strong setting, the cup of coffee is completely done. The pump shuts off. Everything is done in 1 minute and 17 seconds. That's from like when you press start, 1 minute and 17 seconds later, it's done. Which means the actual brew time is 1 minute and 6 seconds for the regular brew. On this, if you use the strong button, now I've got a video kind of linked up here somewhere, somewhere up above me, where I discuss and I tell you exactly what that strong button does. But basically it slows the brew down so that it tastes better, so your coffee tastes better. If you use this with the strong button, the actual water to coffee grind contact time is 1 minute and 3 seconds. So basically the water to coffee grind contact time in this is longer than it is in this when you use the strong button. Now with this, you also have a strong button. And if you push that, it adds an extra 10 seconds to that 8-ounce cup of coffee brew time. So from the moment you push the button to the moment your coffee is completely done, it takes a minute and 27 seconds. Subtracting out the 11 seconds where the water is warming up, that means the entire water to coffee grind time is 1 minute and 16 seconds. So it adds 10 extra seconds to the brew time. Less than a minute and a half, you can have a full 8-ounce cup of coffee. This takes almost 2 3/4 minutes. I timed it at 2 minutes and 42 seconds. And it's louder, and the coffee isn't as strong as this one. So this one is getting a more even extraction because of the 5-point system. It's also giving you better coffee because the water to coffee grind contact time is longer, and the temperature of water coming out is optimal. Now, if you go and try to measure the temperature of your coffee by what goes into the cup, it's not going to be anywhere close to 190 to 195 degrees. And that's because the water comes out that hot and it goes through coffee grind. And literally the coffee grind cools the water down. So by the time it gets to your cup, it's at a more reasonable drinking temperature. I measured the coffee in the cup for an 8-ounce cup when it was done at 162 degrees. This machine also offers you the ability to change the temperature of brew based on your altitude. So if you've got a high altitude, like if you live in a high altitude place, you can activate the high altitude setting and it will brew the water slightly cooler because water boils at lower temperatures the higher altitude you go. It's not a big difference, but by the time it gets to your cup, you can still even measure the difference in your cup. The temperature in the cup was 2 to 3 degrees lower when I used the high altitude setting. So anyway, I think this is really great because it offers you that versatility to change the temperature. I don't know, maybe you just like your coffee brewed at a lower temperature. You have that option here. You've got the option to brew a particularly strong cup of coffee by using the over ice setting. You've got a water filter, a charcoal water filter in the KSupreme. This, you just have like this little filter screen that goes in there. Basically it just filters out like large sediment, which is nice. Nobody wants hair or, grit to go into the machine, but this gives you a much higher level of filtration. Again, that's going to improve the flavor of the coffee over the long run. Everything else about these two machines is pretty much similar. It's kind of the same. You got the same drip tray, you got the same styling. You don't quite have all the colors available in the KSupreme, although I wouldn't be surprised if a bunch of different colors come out going into the fall and winter and into 2021. But all in all, I think this is a spectacular machine. Much better than this one. The only reason I would buy this is if I absolutely needed the smallest footprint on my counter possible. This is really, really a great upgrade. I have another video where I kind of gave my first impressions of this machine, and I called it a nice upgrade, because it is. It really is a nice upgrade. Now, the K-Mini Plus is still a very good machine. I think it's worthwhile. It's cheaper, so if you're limited on pricing, this has been my favorite Keurig machine over the past 12 months. This is going to be my new favorite machine over the next 12 months. Unless, of course, I pick up the KSupreme Plus, and I like that a lot more. The KSupreme Plus does have a few extra features on the, over this one, which I will cover in a future video. Those extra features aren't going to be useful for everybody. So the KSupreme Plus will be more expensive, obviously, but not everybody is going to need those extra features or want them. So it might not be the ideal machine for everyone. If you're on a budget, then the K-Mini Plus is a great option, and there is also the new Keurig K Slim, which just released this summer of 2020. I will absolutely be picking that up, doing some reviews and comparisons of the K Slim, because I have a feeling that the K Slim is also going to be an upgrade to this. I have a feeling that it's going to have a lot of the nice usability upgrades of this into it. I don't know for sure because I haven't tested with it yet, but make sure you hit the subscribe button, and very soon I'll be picking that up and producing some videos on it, so you'll be able to learn everything about it pretty much before anyone else does, because it's kind of hard to find these machines these days because they're so new. Anyway, I hope this video was helpful for you. I hope you appreciate the information. If you have any questions, specific questions about this, please put them in the comments, and I will answer them as quickly and accurately as I possibly can. And thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. I'm long-winded. I try to get it all out there. So thanks for watching.